So it was 22 years ago, 1997, and I was a sophomore at Indiana University studying journalism. And my priorities were studying and partying and making friends. And I woke up one day and went to take a shower and noticed I couldn't feel the water hitting my left arm, and found it odd, but wasn't too concerned. But then the next day, it was like my whole left side was asleep. And I remember calling my mom, just like, "Mom, have you ever slept so hard like your whole left side falls asleep?" And she was like, "No." And so that's what led me to going to different doctors, which led to the MRIs and a spinal tap. And that's where I was given the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And at this time, MS, I was only 19. There was like nobody that I knew of with it. My parents didn't even have friends with it at this point. And this was actually before Google was invented. Google came out in '99. So there was no way to search for anything on the internet about anything you were going through. You just had to I reached out to the MS Society and just tried to start learning as much as I could. But I felt, like, how is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I didn't know if it was like MD. It was so like out of nowhere. And, long before we had any correlation that there could be, like, how does this happen to anybody? So, I did the best I could, and I was really grateful to have supportive friends, but it was really scary because I didn't know if I would be affected. I had blindness in my right eye at one point. It was just a slew of things. And while I was processing all of this, literally 1 month after my diagnosis, one of my best friends was killed in a car accident. She died in a car accident. And I know because my other best friend called to tell me about it. So now all of a sudden, this world of MS kind of got the back burner, because when you're 19 and you lose one of your best friends, it's like you lose a part of yourself. You lose part of your world. And I'd been sick with MS, but my feeling had come back. So I wasn't fully attached to whether this would come back, if it would be permanent. And so now I'm grieving and accepting my MS. And then 8 months later, the friend who was like my best friend since 6th grade, who initially informed me that our friend had passed, she actually died in a car accident as well. So in a matter of 10 months, I was diagnosed with MS, and both my best friends were killed in separate car accidents. And to say I felt alone, yes, I felt alone. It's like an understatement to say I felt alone. I didn't know anybody with MS. I didn't know anybody who'd lost their best friend, let alone two. They were buried next to each other, and it was like I didn't know who I was anymore. I was like walking on eggshells because my friends didn't know how to actually talk to me. They thought they would be triggering me, and people were scared to ask me about the MS. They didn't know what to say. Like, no one knew what to say to me. Even my parents, they weren't equipped to handle this happening to me. It had never happened to them. And so I really, when I think about this journey within, I was given this massive year that it was a whole journey within. I reached out to the health center at Indiana University, like, I'm really sad, really having a hard time focusing, like I'm really depressed. And I wasn't depressed about the MS. I was depressed about my friends. But it's okay to be depressed about your friends, but like, what do you do? And their only solution at the time was giving me antidepressants. And I really had resistance with that, because I was like, I think I'm allowed to be really sad in this moment. And then I learned that there was this program where you could apply to go overseas and study for a semester, and something like that would just like have not been on my radar. I grew up in Greenville, South Carolina. Like, everybody pretty much stayed kind of close to home. It was a big deal that I'd gone to IU. And recognizing that where I was, I felt so detached I felt like such an alien, such a foreigner in where I was, that this idea of taking myself somewhere else and creating an opportunity for myself, I thought maybe this would help shift, and I could, there could be some positive in a way maybe to come out of all of this. So without asking my parents' permission, I applied to study in London for a semester, and I got accepted. And I reached out to my parents and I said, I know what I need to do for myself. And so before I know it, I'm in Europe. And before I know it, I'm in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day, which was like a dream come true. I just turned 21 years old. And, you know, I'd brought my MS meds with me, and everything that I was doing it for my friends. Like, I was like, oh, I'm the one alive. Like, it's not about my legs might not work again, and like, I can't live in this fear of MS. It's my friends are dead and I'm alive. And it was this crazy awareness that just came to me being in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. Like, a dream of mine had just come true, like something I never would have put on my radar, but it couldn't have happened had all these things I would never wish upon anybody to happen. And so I actually ran and got a tattoo, like in this awareness movement, of a 4-leaf clover with the letter M, because both of my friends' names were Margaret and Meredith. So I said they were like my permanent good luck charms with me, and that I knew I was always going to be protected. And I knew that if I listened to what I needed for me, as opposed to the way other people want to serve, and they think they have the solutions for us, but they're not in our experience. And so, again, this was before I could even Google to learn about other people's experiences. It wasn't out there yet. People weren't talking about this. And I am so grateful that I listened to myself, because it literally changed the trajectory of my life. And I didn't look at the MS and my friends dying as this from this victim space anymore. I had a way to look at it that it served me versus set me back. And it actually became a stepping stone, because of course this experience now led to more things. And coming home, I came home with a new sense of confidence in myself that I hadn't even had before any of this had happened. And I joke that, you know, this was the beginning of my hero's journey, because I didn't know what the hero's journey was back then, but I'm fully aware now, because I've been given a lot more stories in life. But this tool, knowing that I had in me what I needed at 22, is the same tool that I have in me now for when, you know, I don't get the apartment I want, or I lose my 2 front teeth in a bike accident, or my heart gets broken by somebody. Like, I recognize that it is going back inward and going, okay, this isn't about what's happening to me. There's something bigger that's happening for me, but only I get to make that decision. And if I think that's the journey we're all on, is to trust ourselves and know that the answers are within. Yeah.